Good evening, folks. Welcome, America. Welcome to the Dave Englishman Show. Thanks for tuning in. Wanted to share with you some a little bit funny. So I sat down. It's right now 20 to 4 a.m. Sunday morning, and I had sat down to do this video almost an hour and 45 minutes ago now. I spent from 9 o'clock until just after 1 a.m. getting everything all uploaded and getting all my videos queued in the right spot, making sure I highlighted the spots for the story. And I filmed it the first time, and I made it to the 39-minute mark, and my camera shut down. And I checked into it, and it says too many pictures in the memory, too many videos in the memory. So I had to go in and I had to dump everything. So I set the show all back up again, started at the beginning. Didn't take me very long, maybe 5 minutes to get everything all set back up again. So I start rolling, and I get to a 3-minute long video, and it plays the video, and then it freezes the computer. And I couldn't get it to go off. So I talked for another 3 or 4 minutes, and the 25-minute mark, I just shut off the camera and started this all over again, and I had to get back into my computer. I had to download everything. I had to queue everything up. So here it is. It's 20 minutes to 4 in the morning, and I'm doing this again. So again, welcome to the Dave Englishman Show. Sorry for our technical difficulty story. Thought it would be kind of interesting. So, like I always start off every show, please go after your state legislature and your legislators and have them sign your state up for the Convention of States. Get people that you know to call in, sign the petition. Everybody you know you should be telling this to, because the more people, the more chance that your state government will have to participate in it. So what the Convention of States is each state, they have to have 3/4 of the states to ratify an agreement, and then it goes before, it doesn't go before anybody. So basically, we need an amendment that gives all politicians holding government office, whether it's municipal, state, or federal, they get 2 terms, they're out. This election is the defining moment in our nation's history, bar none, since its creation. So if, by some miracle, Biden was to win, which to me the only way they can do it is by voter fraud. But if Biden wins, we need to have this put in place before the November election. And we are day 89. 79. 79 from the election. Day 79 from the election. Can you believe it? 79 more days. And all hell's breaking loose. We need to have something done. Like, this has got to be a top priority for all Americans. Because if we don't do something, we're at a critical turning point here. Our country's at critical mass. And I'll explain why as we go through tonight's show. I really strongly encourage you to stay engaged with this show. It may be a little bit long. I don't know how long it's going to run. I have 5 videos. One is 5 minutes. One is just over 5 minutes. And the other ones are very short. They are very engaging, and I'm going to get into some stuff that you will not see on mainstream. I guarantee you that you haven't seen this at all, and it's mind-blowing. It goes along with what the last show was, 19B. This show is not about pedophilia. The pedophilia is one aspect of why they want to take down Trump, but I'm going to get into the other aspect of why they want to take down Trump, and it will blow your mind. I've already told you, and this is just leading into this, I've already told you that the CIA has been involved with the news media, paper print, through magazines and newspapers, to radio and television, and now on social media. So they've infected everything, and this comes straight from the CIA. So I'm going to get in, and I want to bring you back to 1969. And I'm going to play this in its entirety. It's 5 minutes and 53 seconds long. It is well worth your time. If you've never heard this before. I had heard this many years ago and kind of forgot about it. And I just happened across it. So watch this and listen to every single thing that this man is telling you, because he's giving you a warning about what's to come with the socialists and the Marxists and the communists that have infected our country. Now, don't forget, this is 1969. Kennedy was assassinated in 63. Lyndon Baines Johnson's the president. He's already subjugated the blacks to live in projects and built low-income housing and removed the father for the first generation from the home. They're promoting abortion like there's no tomorrow. Their plan is rolling along at this point. But they had to get rid of Kennedy. Kennedy had to be out of the way before they could even make it that far. But as you know, every time that they try to do something big, there's always got to be a polarizing moment in the nation's history where time stands still because the nation is in turmoil. So we have the Vietnam War of the late 60s through the early 70s. Country's polarized, right? So what do they do at that point in time? They instill a lot of policies that are slowly eroding our rights. They're putting in judges, into left-leaning judges into key positions. They're infecting not just the CIA, but the FBI and the NSA and the military. And it goes deep, folks. The web is very deep. You had Kennedy gave the secret society speech, which is going to talk about what this man is going to talk about. Only Kennedy is warning of it 6 years prior to this video, this actual interview coming out, because that's what it is. It's an interview. And he's quoting this book that he's holding in his hand should be the most important book that is in every American's home, because they need to read what the agenda is about. So with that being said, you also had Eisenhower gave you a speech on the industrial military complex, right? So you had two presidents in a row warning you that there was already infection taking place within the government. And these socialists have been around in this country since the early 1920s. So pay attention. I'm going to interrupt this video on a couple of occasions just to remind you of something that's current, and we'll keep moving on. I think this will blow your mind if you've never seen this.
That I think ought to be in every home library. It's entitled Color, Communism, and Common Sense by Manning Johnson. Manning Johnson was a Negro, and he was also a member of the Communist Party. He joined the party as a young man because he honestly believed that the communists were trying to improve the conditions of his people. He was a dedicated communist. But after many years, Manning Johnson finally came to the realization that the communists weren't the least bit interested in improving the conditions of the Negro people.
Please understand, he's not being condescending when he uses the word Negro or Negro people. The left has tried to erase that because, you see, here's the thing. And if anybody thinks I'm being a racist, you can go and shove your head up your own ass. So if you break the society down into them and us, right, instead of all of us, instead of being white Americans or Negro Americans, because Negro comes from the French word meaning black, dark, right? So we had Negro Americans, we had white Americans. But at the end of the day, we're all Americans. All just Americans first. And that's the way people felt about this country after the Civil War. Now you have to understand, we're the only country in the world that ever fought a civil war over slavery. So with that being said, if we're the only country that ever fought a civil war over slavery, I think the country paid for its sins. I'm not saying erase the history. I'm saying quite the contrary. It's the left that wants to cancel culture, everything, and they're removing our history about the Civil War. They're trying to remove all of our history. So let's keep going. I want you to pay attention.
He discovered that instead they were merely planning to use his people, and these are his words, to use them as cannon fodder in a bloody revolution to destroy America. As early as 19...
Kind of like what they're doing with your children, not allowing them to go to school. They're using your children as cannon fodder to keep you at home, away from your job, away from your work, not making any money, businesses going bankrupt. I could go on, but I think you get the point.
1928, the communists declared that the racial differences among our people constituted the weakest and most vulnerable point in our social fabric. By constantly probing and straining at this one spot, they calculated that eventually the cloth could be torn apart and that Americans could be divided, weakened, and perhaps even set against each other in open combat. We must not be led into placing the blame for the riots, the civil disorders, on the Negro people of our nation. Even those few who are promoting hatred and violence in the black communities are not themselves the cause. They're merely being used by forces far bigger than...
He's telling you that the black community is being used by forces far bigger than even we can understand. It's kind of like what's going on right now. You've got people like George Soros paying money for the Black Lives Matter movement and Antifa protests. You have George Soros buying elections for state prosecutors. You have a lot of really perplexing, damaging, not just to the country, but to the moral fabric of the country, to the fabric of its laws. Everything's being undermined, and it's being undermined for a reason. Let's keep going.
Than they are, to promote the violent phase of the revolution in America. Hoping to avoid further violence and bloodshed, the public is to be pressured into accepting measures that will move the country gradually and legally toward communism.
COVID-19? Seriously, COVID-19? The Chinese don't like Trump. The Russians don't like Trump, yet they're claiming that Trump's colluding with the Russians again. Like as if he'd be colluding with the Russians now, knowing that the first Russian collusion garbage was all a false hoax that Hillary Clinton paid for. And the truth is actually coming out in the court of law right now. You can go and read about it just about anywhere, but mainstream news will not give you anything because they're complicit. Most of the Hollywood and media are involved in this blackmail from the powers that be through the whole pedophilia ring. But the powers that be have much more to hide than what we're being shown. And I'm going to get to all of this. So keep paying attention to what this man has to say, because it's all leading up to where we're going in tonight's show. And it's a good one, folks. You're going to like it.
But without calling it that. The strategy of the proletarian revolution calls for the quiet conversion of our government into a communist regime, but under the banner of socialism. The new program of the Communist Party on this subject has this to say. The term socialism describes but the first stage of a new society that in its full development is called communism.
New society? COVID-19, new normal. They're preparing us, folks. We're like pigs right now going to the slaughter. They're preparing us for what they're about to do. They're going to try to pull off the biggest election fraud in human history. They can't beat Trump. Biden is as slow as a snail mentally. He's degrading by the day. And his policies have gone extreme left. He's even said so himself. He's the most progressive left-leaning candidate in U.S. history. His words, not mine. Let's go.
Socialism is a transitional stage. The building of socialism is the communist revolution in America. It represents the process whereby our country can be moved gradually toward communism without the people even being aware of it. They have one and only one solution for all problems. More government, and then more and more until it's total government. Total government is communism. We must not be fooled into thinking that the causes of our civil turmoil are such things as poverty, poor housing, lack of education, and similar social or economic factors. As a matter of fact, most of today's self-styled revolutionaries, black and white, come from good homes, could earn better than average incomes if they wanted to work.
Pay attention.
And in fact, they're products of some of the finest institutions of higher learning.
They're the product of some of the best institutions of higher learning. Antifa. These people sit at home in their pajamas, either watching porn or playing video games in mom's basement, right? But then they come out of the shadows and go and burn, loot, and murder. BLM. Because Antifa has infected BLM. I've said before, I have no problem with the original Black Lives Matter. From what I understand of it, I think they started out trying to be the voice of the people, and it grew into something they didn't realize. It's now an untamed animal that they can't reel in. It's getting money funded to them from Soros and from other left-leaning groups. They're funneling money to campaigns. You can go and follow that. You go to Black Lives Matter and follow the money when you make a donation. Because you can follow it right on their own website. It'll take you to Act Blue, make a donation on Act Blue. It takes you right to the DNC, and then it shows you who is getting the money. Not making that up. You can go there yourself. So let's keep going a little more.
We mustn't resort to violence either as a means of furthering political or social goals. And we must do everything humanly possible to discourage others from doing so. We must support our local police. Nothing can be quite so damaging to police morale and efficiency as converting every arrest into a trial of the policeman instead of the criminal. Now,
are you seeing a pattern here? Everything he's talked about so far has come true. Every single thing. Remember the show where I read out of the Communist Manifesto? He's giving you their playbook. And everything so far has literally come true. The only thing that hasn't happened yet, if you go back the little segment before that, was that we're not at armed conflict. We're damn close, but we're not there yet. Center-left Americans and center-right Americans that might be swayed by a Biden-Harris, I don't even know what you would call it, a fiasco. I think you really need to seriously do some research. Maybe they should watch this program and just open your mind and then go and research all of these facts. And I'm not the only person out there giving you alternative. I don't think you're seeing this alternative somewhere, but there's all kinds of people giving you alternative. And you really need to investigate because this country's in dire, dire straits. This is the most important election in the history of our nation. It's that critical. So with that being said, I'm going to shut up for the remainder of this video because what he has to say, you need to open your mind and open your ears, and you need to really do some deep soul searching on what's going on and what you know in your heart to be true. You may not like Trump because of whatever reason, but at this stage of the game, he is the only thing standing between us and a total takeover of our country by a handful of people and their thug supporters on the streets. That's where we're at, folks. I'm not making it up. If you think it can't happen, it happened in Germany. They were a republic. It happened.
In passing, ladies and gentlemen, you may have wondered why the Communist Party has been a staunch supporter of the drive to place a black studies curriculum into our high schools and colleges. Well, the reason becomes obvious the minute you take a look at the textbooks and the study guides. Under the guise of academic balance, these courses have become a brilliant device for conditioning young people to accept still one more part of the total program for revolution. We must discover the identity of those individuals, both above and below, who consciously are furthering the communist program for revolution, and then remove them from their positions of trust and leadership. Now, of course, the minute you begin to think along these lines, you'll become the target of a whole barrage of attacks. You'll be called a right-wing extremist, a fascist, or at least a dictator. Some years ago, I happened to attend a meeting where several anti-communist refugees from behind the Iron Curtain were called upon to relate their personal experiences. One of the refugees spoke up and he said, "You know, I came to America expecting to find a nation of free men, but instead, I find exactly the same thing. Everywhere I look, I see men and women who know that communists are making headway in this country. They know that something must be done and that someone must stand up to them. But they themselves do nothing. They remain silent because they're afraid that if they speak out or take a stand publicly, it'll be bad for business. They may lose a client. They may even lose their jobs. If communism should ever come to America, we'll face more death, destruction, and human suffering than any people in history has ever faced at the hands of their invading conquerors. It's literally a question of life and death for all of us. And it's about time the American people began to face up to that fact and to act accordingly. Thank you.
Yep. So, again, 6 years after Kennedy's assassinated. And they knew then what the agenda was. So, the Committee on Un-American Activities was ended by Democrats. That was McCarthy and McCarthyism. McCarthy was rooting out all of the communists that had infected the government. Yeah. They were already rooting them out back in the 50s. So imagine, there's nobody there trying to root them out anymore. How many of them have infected the bureaucracy? Hundreds, thousands, if not more. They've infected the news media. They've infected Hollywood. Look at these actors and actresses. They're not even living in the same reality that we are. And people on the left, if you're in the center, and people who are left-leaning from the right, you really need to take a good look at what you're being offered here by the two different camps. You have Trump, who's made a lot of promises, and he's kept every one of them. In fact, he's touted that he's even kept more. Now, it's impossible to do that, but we get his meaning of that. So he would use his rallies as like the testing ground to find out his next idea, if the American people, us, the people who voted for him, actually wanted that to happen. Anything. So he got a real litmus test of where we're at. Whereas the Democrats, I mean, they don't care where we're at. Plain and simple, they don't care. They lie to you habitually. It's proven every single day. It's just a lie. The whole thing is a facade. Show you why. So I'm going to switch gears just a touch. This is the page that I got stuck on. So I'm crossing my fingers that this actually works this time. I really don't want to be doing this video for the 4th time. So we loaded there. There's the video.
Last night I was on Tucker, and he was talking about how the Democrats are now talking about the election being stolen, and they're talking about it in many, many different ways. They're talking about the president is trying to use the postmaster general to stop the election and all of the absentee ballots that are going out. That's a point where they're going to say he stole the election. They're saying that now he's working again with Russia. Guys, did you read the reports that, I mean, he wasn't working with Russia the first time What do you think, he would work with Russia now? Russia is trying to steal the election, but of course, do we have that thought from Nancy Pelosi from a couple of days ago where she was talking about this? Yeah, she was talking about it, and she said that in China doesn't like us either. That's another global power, but they're fine. They're not doing anything. China, you're okay with China? You no reason to look into China. China is for Joe Biden. That's why. They don't want Donald Trump. Russia doesn't want Donald Trump either. Russia just wants the chaos. China is actually playing for the guy they've already paid for. Look, they bought their presidential candidate. They paid for him through his son. We want what we paid for. Well, of course China cares. They're not going to do anything. No, because they're on the up and up. They sent us the coronavirus. What? No. We are totally innocent. We're just eating here. Just all you can hear the sound of our chopsticks. Eating. We're just having lunch right now. Nothing. Really? By the way, I don't know why the Chinese sound like Russians. Oh, I do remember. It's okay to make the Russian accent because they're a bunch of white guys. So, anyway, right now we have a situation to where they are setting us up. Anything the Democrats say they are doing, and I know you know if you've been paying attention.
True.
If you've been paying attention, you know that whatever they say Trump is doing. Mm-hmm. They are saying that Trump is planning for all of these riots afterwards, that he's not going to leave, he's going to contest if he doesn't win. Those are all the things they're going to do. Right now, could I ask you, if you really cared about this election, and I do, I deeply care. I mean, they worry about Russia. Okay, well, let's just look at a couple of things. The mail-in ballots. Hundreds of thousands of these ballots have been deemed fraudulent. Hundreds of thousands. 500,000 incorrect absentee ballot applications were sent out. 500,000. That's to one state. In the New York City primary, 84,000 incorrect ballots sent. They're still counting the primary for the presidential election. They're still counting the ballots in New York. Really? So we have a party that screwed up their own caucus in Iowa. I think they're still counting ballots. I think they're still like, hang on, we're going to get a winner here soon. They screwed up their own caucus by trying something new. They have already sent out tons, hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of incorrect absentee ballots. I'm not making this up. A cat that has been dead for 9 years got a ballot. Okay?
That's true. That video goes on. I want you to hear just one more thing out of this.
Why would we change at this critical time? Why would we change our ballot counting and the way we do our ballots? It is more important than ever that we don't try something new. What are we doing? How does that make sense? Unless you're trying to create chaos. That is the operative word. As I told you 10 years ago, when we get into this thing, chaos will be the operative word. Anybody that is trying to cause chaos on either side in any way, run. Run. It is honestly one reason why I worried about Donald Trump. He lives in a world of chaos. But as we have seen, he may be the only one that can navigate the world of chaos. Look at him. Mr. President, somebody's in the hallway. They might want to shoot you. Again? Okay. I mean...
Serious. And meanwhile, they're trying to rig the election with these stupid ballots. So you might remember, I think it was show number 3, I brought this to light. 28 million mail-in ballots went missing in the last 4 elections. Yeah, that's true. It says here between 2012 and 2018, 28.3 million mail-in ballots remain unaccounted for, according to data from the Federal Election Assistance Commission. Really good article to read, but I just wanted to refresh your memory when they talk about, oh, well, it doesn't happen. You conservatives are making this all up. Okay. All right. So this article from the Daily Signal gives you 15 election results in this article, and they give you each one, and they go through the story of what happened and how they broke it down. Results that were thrown out because of fraudulent mail-in ballots. Fraudulent mail-in ballots. It says here, now with millions of Americans homebound because of COVID-19, progressives are amping up their push for national mail-in voting as Michelle Obama throws her support behind related legislation purported to be the response to the pandemic. What neither the former First Lady nor the bill's Democrat sponsors in the Senate, Ron Wyden of Oregon and Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota, vote them both out, have talked about are various provisions of the legislation that would allow for ballot harvesting. We went over ballot harvesting, I believe, in show 3 or 4. It's where people who have political sway in the community will go in and offer money or favors to people if they can fill out the ballots and turn them in. So they're effectively buying the ballot. Now, George Soros is already funding dirty prosecutors and has already injected $50 million thus far this year, since January 1st, $50 million into the elections for 2020. Think of that, folks. Why would one man, and he's just one, there are lots more where he came from. There's Bill Gates, another one with money. There are powerful people who don't give a shit about us. They want power and control. And they're trying to formulate a one world government across the entire globe. The entire globe. Now, at this point in time, the United States has 2 major adversaries. Now, sometimes I ask myself, is that for real? Or are there players in the left that are their allies? And therefore, those people are our enemies. That old saying, right? Keep your enemies close. They're among us. Among us. So please go in and read about ballot harvesting, and you can go in and read about every single one of these cases, and it will blow your mind. So the next is 1 in 5 ballots rejected as fraud is charged in New Jersey mail-in election. That's all I'm going to read you here. Following accusations of widespread fraud, voter intimidation, and ballot theft in the May 12th municipal elections in Paterson, New Jersey, State Attorney General Guber Grewal, pictured above, announced Thursday he is charging 4 men with voter fraud, including the vice president of the city council and the candidate for that body. With races still undecided, control of the council hangs in the balance. Paterson is New Jersey's 3rd largest city, and the election will decide the fate of the municipal budget in excesses of $300 million, in addition to hundreds of millions more in education spending and state aid. Do you understand what's going on? We are being set up to fail. They cannot allow Trump to win by any means possible. They lie habitually, nonstop, 24/7 on fake TV and on Fakebook and on Shitter. So here's an interesting story. I don't know, and I don't think most of you have seen this. Kansas health officials present manipulated, deceptive chart to mislead public about mask effectiveness. So I'm going to get right into this. On August 5th, Kansas City Department of Health Secretary Lee Norman tried to prove through a visual aid that the Kansas counties that followed the governor's mask mandate had fewer COVID-19 cases than the no-mask counties. Thanks to the Republican-dominated legislature, 90 out of Kansas's 105 counties were able to opt out of the Democrat Governor Laura Kelly's mask mandate. Naturally, it was reasonable for Secretary Norman to try to ascertain which counties did better. What wasn't natural, however, was the manipulated chart he used to show the media that the mask counties did better when in fact the opposite was true. During the media briefing, Norman displayed the following chart on an easel. This graphic has an added title line, what Kansas Health Secretary Norman gave to the media and the public. So it goes on, and you can take a look at the graph while I keep reading. To the average person, the chart seems to clearly show the cases in mask counties, which are represented by the red line, plummeting from about 25 cases per 100,000 a day on July 12th to about 5 cases a day in early August at the same time. The non-mask counties represented in blue appear flat and to land at about 9 per 100,000 in early August, clearly higher than the mask counties. As Cake reported, Michael Austin of the Kansas Policy Institute noticed something was off. He knew from the raw data that the non-mask counties had a lower case rate. Then he realized that this graphic was using two different x-axis lines on the same graph for the two categories. Like, seriously, are we using Common Core math now? We can't even follow basic guidelines for putting a graph together? See what I mean? They'll lie about anything. They'll stretch any truth. It's disgusting. This explains why the chart depicts an impossible flat blue line for non-mask counties, even though it appears to go down from 21 to 9. In fact, the cases for mask counties in red are based upon the left axis with a scale of 15 to 25, while those without mandates are based on a secondary axis on the right with a scale of 4 to 14. What does the chart look like if you actually place them on the same axis to reflect the authentic case per capita data? So, it goes on to say, as you can see, while the mask counties did go down from 25 to 15, they always remained higher to this day than the non-mask counties, which have flatlined at about 9 to 10 cases per 100,000. In other words, those counties with mandates have a 77% more cases per capita per day than those without the mandate, yet the health secretary sought to depict the opposite. Why? Because they need to push the narrative. Okay? So remember I talked already. They had Vietnam. Well, maybe not. I've already done 2 halves of this show, so maybe I already talked about it. So they've already had Vietnam as the backdrop to when they tried to enact a lot of these things that Democrats put in the 60s. Well, then we had 9/11 happen when we got the Patriot Act. Well, right now we have COVID-19 and lockdowns and masks and closures of schools. Okay? So remember, they always have to have some national crisis that has the conversation of the country, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, or whether it creates friction in a fight. But they have to have something as a crisis backdrop when they initialize all this crap. They couldn't do it in the 60s. People still weren't ready for it because people were still pro-Second Amendment more than now. A lot more. And they knew that. That's why they're trying to get rid of our guns, because they look at it and say, okay, well, there's now only a third of the country has guns instead of like it used to be 65 to 70%. They think that they can enact this legislation by the masses. That's why they don't want to have the Electoral College vote. That's why they want popular vote, because they want to have by the masses, which is absolute chaos. And the way they want to run it, it's the worst form of democracy. It's like an anarchist wet dream for Marxism and socialism and communism all rolled into one, with a lot of death and destruction and garbage in between. These people have a sanity issue if they think that socialism is the right answer. But they are using this as the crisis to push fear into people so that they won't go and vote, and they'll vote by ballot, and they intend to commit voter fraud on America. I want you to listen carefully to what Joe Biden says. This is after he does his presser, which I'll show you a clip from that. And in that clip at the presser, they did the presser, him and Kamala, and then they abruptly left. They didn't answer any questions. In this, he actually answers this local reporter, and I believe that this was either way after and everybody else was gone or before. He doesn't say. But very interesting what Biden has to say, and I want you to listen extremely carefully to what he's telling you he would do.
That. Mr. Vice President, you know this has not been a good day as far as the pandemic is concerned. Alarming numbers coming out of our three largest states, Florida, California, especially Texas. I know you've been critical of the president's handling of the pandemic in the past, but let's look ahead. If you became president tomorrow, what would you do differently regarding the pandemic and getting these surging cases now under control?
I would go back to making sure that everybody had masks, that you had PPE lined up. We have been making sure we stockpile all the things that we need that we don't have now. The one thing we do know, these masks make a gigantic difference. I would insist that everybody on public be wearing that mask. Anyone to reopen would have to make sure that they walked into a business that had masks.
Couldn't you use your federal leverage to mandate that, though?
Yes.
And would you?
Yes, I would. From an executive standpoint, yes, I would.
So you would, in effect, mandate the wearing of masks?
I would do everything possible to make it required that people had to wear masks in public.
On another subject of...
Do you hear that? Did you hear that? He's going to mandate it. Basically, the guy was hinting at, would you make it an executive order? And he's saying yes. Now, let's go and have a look at this creepy dude in this video. Oh, no.
I want to talk about one thing, very straightforward. It doesn't have anything to do with Democrats, Republicans, or independents.
Oh, please play. Oh, here we go. I don't want to do this again for the fourth time. I love doing this show. I really do. I do this for you. I don't do this for me. I already do all the research, but I can't believe it's not going to play. I'll put it up in the show notes. The show notes are when you're on YouTube and you're at the video below my video. It shows lots of other videos below it. There's a little tiny upside down triangle. If you tap on that, it opens up all the links to all the stories and all the videos that I'm trying to show you. So in this one here, Joe says that he wants everybody to wear these masks for 3 months. The next 3 months. 79 days until the election, which is 3 months. So they intend, right? They're saying 3 months. If they win the election, he's already talking about, you know, all the things he's going to implement for COVID, the new normal. Folks, we could be living with masks for the remainder of our lives. Is this what you want? Do you want to be beaten into submission over a created pandemic? I've played for you in the past, and you can go and watch my shows because the videos that I play are part of the show. So the videos may be removed off of YouTube that I took them from, but you can watch the important portions of them that I posted so you can see that I'm not making this up. The Democrats and the social media owners and all their acolytes are so against what Trump is doing to make America great and to return us from the depths of hell, which is what socialism and communism are, right? Yet these people want to mask us indefinitely. Trump's saying no. They want to keep our kids from school. It's a real sick agenda that these people have. So I want to take a little turn here, just switch gears. Seeing as though Joe's such a scumbag and he's been a liar his entire life. There's videos out there of him during, I think it was an election in the 80s that he ran. And he lied about his education. He lied about what his ranking was in the law school that he went to. He lied about a lot of things. And they have clips of the news media from back in the day, like when they actually did the news, when they really brought the truth out. And it didn't matter. They was left or right leaning. It just got regurgitated out in the public, more or less, so that you could make a pretty good, decision based upon the information given to you. Nowadays, everything's just covered up, and they don't bring anything to light. It's just buried. So, did Kamala Harris sleep her way to the top? The left won't tell you that she did. And if they have, it's been years gone by. So, it says here, former San Francisco Mayor Willie Brown writes about dating Kamala Harris, appointing her to posts. So he writes a whole article, and this is just the excerpts from the article. So he addressed his past relationship with Senator Kamala Harris in a letter to the San Francisco Chronicle on Saturday and acknowledged, given her appointments, that furthered her career. Yes, we dated. It was more than 20 years ago. Who said he had been peppered with calls from the national media about my relationship with Kamala Harris, particularly since it became obvious that she was going to run for president. Harris's office did not immediately respond to USA Today's request for comment on Brown's letter to the Chronicle. USA Today, pretty left-leaning newspaper, so I'm taking them at their word. Right? A 1994 Los Angeles Times report about then California Assembly Speaker Brown's rush to hand out patronage jobs described Harris as Brown's frequent companion and said several people referred to her as Brown's girlfriend. That report also cited a column from the Chronicle's Herb Cain that called Harris the Speaker's new steady. When they met, she was 29 and Brown was 60. Although Brown supported Harris in her successful 2003 run for San Francisco District Attorney, she tried to distance herself from him in that race, telling San Francisco Weekly that Brown, whose career was dogged by corruption allegations, was an albatross hanging around my neck. Wow, she just likes to throw people out. She is a piece of work. Among the issues that followed Harris from her time with Brown was the allegation of cronyism in his appointment of her to two well-paying posts. Yes, I may have influenced her career by appointing her to two state commissions when I was Assembly Speaker, Brown wrote Saturday. Brown was the Speaker from 1980 to 95 prior to his stint as the San Francisco Mayor. Brown appointed Harris to the California Unemployment Insurance Appeals Board and then to the Medical Assistance Commission, positions that paid her more than $400,000 over 5 years, according to San Francisco Weekly. Brown also gave Harris a BMW. Ooh. And I certainly helped her with her first race for district attorney in San Francisco, he said in a Chronicle letter Saturday. The difference is that Harris is the only one, after I helped her, sent word that I would be indicted if I so much as jaywalked while she was the DA, Brown wrote. That's politics for you. So this is a guy that she slept with and used to climb her way up the so-called corporate ladder of politics, and then she discards him like a dirty sock. She's already a lowlife to begin with in her own personal life. She's only in this for her own personal gain of power. See, she has one of the most radical voting records, right? But your actions kind of give you away. And when you have a left-leaning voting, that's the way you vote generally, 99% of the time, kind of gives it away that you're a socialist if you're voting for hard left things. So let's take a little look deeper. Based upon her words and deeds, Kamala Harris is a socialist. And I think I highlighted this. Yep. As if her co-sponsoring the Green New Deal was not enough evidence to convince Americans that Harris is a socialist. Yeah, she co-sponsored the bill. Consider that she called for the abolition of private health insurance in 2019. Yeah, she did that too. Remember Obama's, if you like your plan, you keep your plan. Like your doctor, you keep your doctor. But none of that was true. So why would I ever believe her? According to Harris, the idea is that everyone gets access to medical care and you don't have to go through the process of going through an insurance company, having them give you approval, going through the paperwork, all of the delay that may require. Who of us has had that situation where you've got to wait for approval and the doctor says, well, I don't know if your insurance company is going to cover this. Let's eliminate all of that. Let's move on. What she's basically saying is, let's just eliminate what we have been doing that we could make better, right? But the United States has the premier health care in the world, or so it did up until Barack Obama came along. And we've been falling short. So she basically just wants to move on, which to me is part of the cancel culture. So I did a little exploration. I read some things online, and I didn't quite at first believe it. So I started going down all different kinds of information avenues. And lo and behold, Kamala Harris's Jamaican ancestors, it was her great-great-great-grandfather. He was black. He was a slaveholder in Jamaica. True. So there's links in here that you can go to that will take you to real stories, okay? Now, to prove what I'm saying, Kamala Harris's father wrote an article, okay? So, it says here, on January 13th, 2019, Professor Harris told Jamaican Global Online that Kamala's paternal great-grandmother, Christina Brown, was a descendant of Hamilton Brown, who was on record as plantation and slave owner and founder of Brownstown. Okay. So, this woman has been preaching that Americans need to pay blacks reparations for the slave trade. I think America's paid its reparations for the slave trade with almost 500,000 dead in a war. We weren't a perfect country, and we didn't solve all of the problems in 1865. But folks, we've made great strides to live up to what the Founding Fathers wrote. All men are created equal. All men are free. So we started off not as a slave country. It got built into that in the South, which was Democrat-controlled. Understand that. Democrat-controlled. And her great-great-grandfather happened to be one of them. He was one of the most prolific slave owners in the whole slave industry. At one point in time, and I will put this in the show notes, in the links, he had 4,971 slaves. He would beat them. He would rape the women. Some he would torture. Some he would kill. Yeah. So when she wants to talk about reparations, maybe reparations should come from her, because she has a lot to hide in her closet. Let's go a little deeper. So this is the letter by her father, the article. He writes, as a child growing up in Jamaica, I often heard it said by my parents and family friends, "Remember where you came from." To this day, I continue to retain the deep social awareness and strong sense of identity which that grassroots Jamaican philosophy fed in me. As a father, I naturally sought to develop the same sensibility in my two daughters, born and bred in America. Kamala was the first in line to have it planted. Maya came 2 years later and had the advantage of an older sibling as mentor. It is for them to say truthfully now, not me, what, if anything, of value they carried from that early experience into adulthood. My one big regret is that they did not come to know very well in the two most influential women in my life, Miss Krishy and Miss Iris, as everybody called them. This is in many ways a story about these women and the heritage they gave us. My roots go back within my lifetime to my paternal grandmother, Missy Krishy, née Christina Brown, descendant of Hamilton Brown, who is on record as plantation and slave owner and founder of Brownstown, and to my maternal grandmother, Miss Iris, née Iris Finnegan, farmer and educator from Annantown, of Inverness ancestry unknown to me. The Harris name came from my paternal grandfather, Joseph Alexander Harris, landowner and agricultural produce exporter, mostly pimento or allspice, who died in 1939, 1 year after I was born, and is buried in the churchyard of the magnificent Anglican church which Hamilton Brown built in Brownstown, and where as a child I learned, was baptized and confirmed and served as an acolyte. Both of my grandmothers had the strongest influence on my early upbringing, not to exclude, of course, the influence of my dear mother, Miss Beryl, and loving father, Mas Oscar. So, I ask, right? He's telling us in this article that he wrote that he's proud of his heritage. And he's saying that he wished he would have instilled that into his daughter. Well, by her own actions and her own deeds, I wonder sometimes if she's not already there. Reparations? This country's being divided on every single conceivable thing that they can think of. So during the Democrat debates and the primaries and well, not the for their convention, she was asked by a reporter, if she had ever smoked weed, and she said that she had smoked weed when she was going to college, and I think she said Eminem, somebody, and apparently he wasn't even a pop or a rap act guy at that point in time, so she lied on that front, but then she made a big joke out of it and said, everybody from Jamaica smokes pot. Well, her father took offense to that and wrote, "My dear departed grandmothers, whose extraordinary legacy I described in a recent essay on this website, as well as my deceased parents, must be turning in their grave right now to see their family name, reputation, and proud Jamaican identity being connected in any way, jokingly or not, with the fraudulent stereotype of pot-smoking joy seeker and in their pursuit of identity politics," he wrote. "Speaking for myself and my immediate Jamaican family, we wish to categorically disassociate ourselves from this travesty," he added. What's the travesty? Kamala? I agree with him. So this one here, I happened upon this just by accident. I was going through some things and clicking through some stuff, looking for a lead, and I got this. And I was like, what is this all about? So, what I found online was the trailer for this documentary called Shadowgate. And the trailer, at the end of it, has a little video that's like 2 minutes long, and it shows this woman named Millie Weaver. She's being arrested. So, Millie Weaver is a documentary producer. She does movies. And what I'm going to show you a little clip of, I'm going to put the whole thing in the show notes, and I'm going to explain why you see this in the bottom corner of the screen down here. So her original video, which is entitled Shadowgate, was pulled down off of YouTube. People have copied it and re-uploaded it on their own channel as a copy. The only one I could find left was this one. And the guy who is running the site puts his own, whatever this is, in the corner, I guess to say who he is. And there's a couple of times he talks during the video. If you can get past that, it is well worth your watch. I mean, extreme. You're never going to see anything like this. So where I'm going to go right now is this woman by the name of Millie is interviewing this woman, and I want you to listen extremely carefully to what this woman says. And she's going to talk about Seth Rich, okay? Now, before I get into that, the primer here is that all of these people, including her, there's a lot of people who are Seth Riches for their career. And what they are is they're information technology experts, and they are told to, in their job capacity, to go in and download information or steal it or take it and then upload it onto a specific drive and never be heard about again. Well, it got uploaded to the drive and it went to a lot of different people. I don't know if that was planned or somebody hacked into it. I have no idea. But the woman is talking about what happened to Seth Rich and about a prosecutor who was looking for information on this. I want you to listen extremely carefully. And then I'm going to tell you more about this video and why it matters for the next portion and the last portion of the show.
And that's what happened. So I'll tell you what happened to Seth Rich. So he did his job as he was asked. At the same time, the RNC was also hacked. Again, Brennan MO, that's hack. And the hack was done on purpose, so you can delete information, insert information, and of course, with them putting Cambridge Analytica and sending them over to President Trump, which was a trap. Okay, that was a trap. You clearly can see it. They hacked the RNC. You mean you had someone within the GOP do it for you, because no one died there. And yes, some of those emails escaped because that is what was considered mitigation. You have to give them something really bad. And so when he saw that they had retroactively changed those emails, stories and rumors going in, seeing that Bernie Sanders' elections were being stolen, the DNC was all about Hillary, not about real elections, that it was all rigged, he came in contact with a guy named Sean Lucas.
We did make contact with somebody from the Democratic National Committee's office, and they've been served. Democracy has prevailed today.
So they decided, oh yeah, maybe we can get it out to someone else. And it was not to Julian Assange direct. And both of those guys are dead.
But in a bizarre twist of events, on August 2nd, less than 1 month after serving the subpoena, Lucas was reported dead.
Hillary's emails were still being examined. They had to get rid of the evidence. And the only way that they can access the whole DNC server is if there was a breach. And that's how you can go in and change things. This is why the FBI never asked for the server. That's the real story. So as Seth Rich thought that what he was doing was correct, later on, he realized it was not. That's why there was such a big gap. They didn't need to find him. They needed to find out who had it. And they already knew that I, myself, had portions of the DNC server and others in March and February. Obama's lawyer for Seth Rich 3 years later says, you need to come and tell us about Seth Rich. I was like, I don't need to do anything. I don't know who you're trying to, you're being subpoenaed. I can't bring you anything because you're 3 years too late. And for the record, usually they're going to be 3 minutes too late. You know, Hillary doesn't have a patent on hammers. or city dumps, or bleach pit, or. Yeah.
Didn't CrowdStrike initially investigate the DNC server, creating the whole Russia hacked the election scenario?
When the DNC hired us back in May, we actually came in and deployed our technology called Falcon on all the systems inside that corporate network.
Who are these people that...
They, them, this guy, the deep state, they are the infection. They've infected everywhere. They control all of our intel. Trump knows this, and Trump has surrounded himself with people who are good, honest, God-fearing patriots, men and women. And they're putting everything on the line. Everything. If Trump goes down, they all go down. Do you understand that? If these socialists, Marxists, come to power, the people who are in government right now will never, ever see another day of daylight. But the people who have done this, that have put Trump through this, because this was an investigation of how they actually pulled the scam off. The whole Russian collusion scam. Through Mueller, the whole 9 yards. Well, there's a woman and a man who both had insider knowledge. They've come out and given her all this information. And other people have obviously been sneaking out information, because some of the information that she shows you through this, you're like, where did she get that? Because she's showing you real documents, right? Well, yesterday, not now, today, but yesterday, on Saturday, they arrested, they had an indictment and a warrant out for her arrest, and they arrested her on the day that the video launched. So YouTube ripped it down, and these guys ended up putting it back up. I want you to watch this in its entirety, so you absorb everything that is going on behind your back. Behind your back. You as a taxpayer and as a United States citizen, no matter if you're left or right, I'm not talking about the far nut job lefties. You can't salvage them. They're the Fruit Loops that are in bed with these idiots. That's your shock troops, Antifa, Black Lives Matter. But you've got thousands of people that have infected the bureaucracy and the government. She talks about the politicians who have been blackmailed. She talks about corporate CEOs who have been blackmailed. I challenge you to go find out how many bankers have retired or committed suicide since Trump took office. Go and do the research. It is mind-numbing. We are living in crazy town. Seriously. So I want to play you this, and then I'm going to sum up. I had already downloaded the videos for the Davos, when Trump gave a speech at Davos in 2019, and I had downloaded the video for Trump when he gave a speech at the UN in 2019. And basically, giving the socialists and the one world government globalist purveyors the double-barreled middle finger and just saying, America's back and you can go pound sand. So I was putting all that together, and I had a friend actually send me this video, and I think this guy has actually done a better job than I could have put to you, just the way that he's done it. So have a gander at this. It's, again, quite telling.
Everyone's in on the Great Reset. Well, almost everyone. There's one guy who's got the power to do something to stop it, and you know exactly where I'm going. And they made a mistake. They tried to get Trump on their side, so they invited Donald Trump to Davos, I think a couple of times. But in January, when Donald Trump, I think, really began to see the beast that he was up against, he went to Davos. to the World Economic Forum, and he stuck a MAGA finger in their eye.
We're committed to conserving the majesty of God's creation and the natural beauty of our world. But to embrace the possibilities of tomorrow, we must reject the perennial prophets of doom and their predictions of the apocalypse. These alarmists always demand the same thing: absolute power to dominate, transform, and control every aspect of our lives. We will never let radical socialists destroy our economy, wreck our country.
2 days after Donald Trump gave that speech, the 89-year-old leftist weirdo billionaire George Soros made an emergency intervention where, at Davos, once again, warning that the U.S. 2020 election will determine the, quote, fate of the whole world. Now, in the context of Davos, take a look at this one more time. This is a month after Donald Trump addressed Davos and stuck the MAGA finger in their face. Here's what Francis, the Vatican, and Jeffrey Sachs had to say in response.
And it is a dangerous country right now. It will be absolutely dangerous if Trump wins re-election. Trump wins re-election. Trump wins re-election.
Francis invited this guy to the Amazon Synod as an honored guest and advisor. He's also Bernie Sanders' advisor. What's he doing in the Vatican? Why is this guy who's a promoter for socialist, out and out socialist, Bernie Sanders, what's he doing advising the Pope? Why does he have entree to the Vatican, friends? Sachs supports abortion and contraception, but that's not a problem for the Vatican. For the Vatican, for Pope Francis, and for his friends at the UN, Donald Trump is the problem, obviously, friends.
Clearly, I consider the Trump administration a danger to the world, but I regard it as a purely temporary phenomenon that will disappear in 2020.
Do you get it? Do you see why there's so much hate for Trump? Because with all of his faults, again, he's the capitalist. He's not the globalist. He never will be one of them, which is why he pulled the United States out of the Paris Climate Agreement. Donald Trump pulled the United States out of the World Health Organization. That's Bill Gates and company. And now he's threatening to pull the United States out of the World Trade Organization. People say, yeah, well, Donald Trump got married twice. He's a bad guy. Really? He's right in the face of the demons on this, friends. Nobody ever said he was a saint. He's knocking the sacred cows of the United Nations down all over the world right now.
The General Assembly routinely votes 185 against the United States on almost everything right now.
And you remember, speaking of the United Nations, in November of 2019, again, right before COVID landed, Trump went to the UN, on the floor of the General Assembly, and he declared war on globalism.
Wise leaders always put the good of their own people and their own country first. The future does not belong to globalists. The future belongs to patriots.
And shortly after the speech at the UN, Donald Trump delivered, what do you think happened? The coronavirus was unleashed on the world, and Trump's booming U.S. economy went on life support. Do you think that was an accident? So when they tell all of us to stay home, wear your mask so grandma doesn't get sick, please understand what's really going on here. They don't care about your grandmother. They don't care about old people, these people. They don't care about babies. They want them aborted so that they can save the common home. Abort babies, millions of them all over the world. They don't care about babies. They don't care about old people. In fact, if you want to save your grandma, tell the globalists to stay the hell away from her. You remember how some of them, like Cuomo and characters like this, were running COVID recovering patients through nursing homes? That's how much they care about grandma. And the name of the game now is to bring the United States economy to its knees, get it out of the way, so that everyone will want the Great Reset. Make the new normal so intolerably abnormal that even you and I, maybe, at some point in the near future, will be begging for the vaccines because we'll be driven crazy by that point. Begging for whatever else is going to keep us safe according to our jailers and our handlers and our zookeepers, you see? That's what they want. That's why they keep using this term, new normal. You know what we do to fight back? Go to work.
Go back to school. If you're healthy, take off the mask. And for heaven's sake, go back to church and pray that Trump wins in November. That's what the reset was on. That's what the Russia hoax was all about. That's what the impeachment hoax was all about. Don't you see? For 4 years, I've been trying to stop this man, because if he strengthens America, if he makes it great again, if he brings the economy back again, the reset won't happen. The New World Order is going to be set way back. Who knows when they're going to have another COVID opportunity like this one again, and they know it. So ask yourselves why they hate this man. These folks. They hate the unborn. They hate the traditional family. They hate you. And they hate Donald Trump. Whose political opponents, by the way, right now are knocking statues of saints to the ground. They're beating up cops. And they're burning flags. You say you don't like Trump. I'm sorry, friends, but who cares? It doesn't really matter anymore. But you think of Trump's personality or his tweets. Look at the big picture. The choice is simple, friends. Stand with America right now, or fall with the New World Order in the not-so-distant future. There's no other choice. I'm Michael Matt for Remnant TV, and we'll see you next week. Everyone's in on the...
That man just told you the truth. There's a lot going on, and they need him out of the way. Because the only way they can implement a one-world government is they need to take this country to its knees first. We are the last country, other than some South American countries and some Middle Easterners who still have guns. You know, there's places in South America, but not to the capacity and the strength that we have guns here. And because we have such a strong former military presence within our citizenry, and those people are armed, that's what threatens them. That's why guys like Chris Murphy and all the rest of their entourage of double-digit IQ morons keep pushing. And they're not morons. They're very devious. That's probably they're devious, wicked people who really don't like any of you or me. It's an agenda for them. It's a power and control agenda. I don't know how at this stage of the game, if you've been paying attention, you can't see that. If you come back to me and say, Dave, I have no clue how you come to your determination. I don't know how else to show you that this is what's really going on. We're in the middle of a transformative election that they are going to try to steal. And we need to be prepared for this, because it can only go one of two ways. No mail-in ballots, folks. All conservatives need to sound the alarm bell like it's a, 10-alarm fire bell. You need to get up and go to the ballot box yourself and cast your vote. I don't care what they do. It's what we need to do. And we need to fight this tooth and nail. We need to make sure we have people. When these ballots are counted, these ballots need to be followed. These ballots need to be tracked. Because, folks, they're going to do everything they can to steal this election. They're going to try. I've given you the proof this evening, and I could have pulled up dozens more stories. There was just one article after the other about the rampant abuse of ballot fraud, mail-in ballot fraud. So keep that in mind. They hate this man, and he is it. He's the only thing that stands between them and us. Him and his administration is all that stands between socialism, which is communism. I mean, ultimately, they would implement that so fast, you'd see people go to their deaths. Trump and his family and anybody in his administration would get rounded up. Next, it would be anybody who is right-wing media and trying to give people. Then it's anybody else who dissents. Then it's the people who are weird or whacked out or messed up. Then it's, for them, it could be the blacks. It could be the queers, the gays, the lesbians. It could be anybody, folks. You don't know with these people. Socialism and communism has killed more people in world history than any other phenomena. None. Really need to wake up. And I hate sounding like I'm a broken record, but I'm serious. I worry about my kids' future. And that's why I am prepared, as a lot of you are who might watch this, I am prepared to do whatever it takes to change hearts and minds and get people to see the light. And if it came down to it and there was an uprising because they steal the election and people start talking and saying, no, this isn't happening, and Kamala Harris becomes president because, by day 100 they've used the 25th Amendment against Biden and gotten rid of him, and she comes out with an executive order to take away everybody's guns, that's not going to happen, folks. You're going to have 24 to 35 or 38 million people, maybe even more, rise up. The largest standing army on the planet would rise up. And I don't care how big of a military you have. These people that would rise up have military training, they have communications training, tactical training, gun training, marksmanship, covert operations. They'd infiltrate, and we would succeed because we have overwhelming numbers and overwhelming strength. And if that happened, the military is not going to step in. But you have to watch the second last video because they get into some of the people who are generals and former generals who are against Trump. And some of the stuff is absolutely unbelievable. I mean, you really need to go watch that video. While it's still up, you need to watch it. It is mind-blowing. The damage that these people have done to this country, mind-blowing. Anyways, folks, I'll catch you on the next show. If you're happy with tonight's show and you like the content, please hit the like button. If you like the content and you'd like to subscribe, I'd love to have you subscribe. Please hit the subscribe button. All right. It's been fun, and I enjoyed showing you all of this information tonight. It was very eye-opening to me, and I hope it was to you. All right. Have a great night, folks, and have a great week, and stay safe. God bless America. God bless you and your family.